Ladies and gentlemen, first year industrial design students, welcome back to another episode of Sketchbook Club Review. Today, episode 6, we're going to be going over group 3. We've got Ajithan, Justin, Raneem, Michael, and Richard. Sketches from this week look great. There's a lot of difference in styles and just difference in approaches to constructing a lot of stuff. Spent the time and looked through some of your guys' earlier stuff. Really good. There's one key takeaway from today's talk: project your detailing. Richard, we're going over your sketch now. Richard, you've done a backpack. I love backpack sketches. I think they're always something that's really cool to include in your sketchbook. I like the line weight in your sketch. I think it's very good on the bottom. It's nice and dark, but also on the top. You've made it just a bit lighter, and there's enough of a difference that is noticeable. Don't be afraid to loosen up your lines, though. It is a backpack, but it kind of looks very stiff. You know, it looks like a box. And ultimately, like a backpack is made of fabric, right? We're going to break it down in kind of a similar way to how Reese was breaking down the walkie-talkie sketch. We're going to break it up into planes and be able to move different things around just to help add to a bit of the attitude to the sketch. I like that you've picked a front 3/4 and a rear 3/4 view. I think both of those are really good. And what I kind of just want to display to you is a way of sketching a soft good item like a backpack in a way that doesn't look like a hard, rigid object. You know, obviously into second semester when we're using markers, that's another easy thing that's able to help add to the sketch. But for now, just doing pen, we're going to sketch a backpack. For the sake of example, we're going to be sketching my backpack here, which is the North Face Caban in Midnight Navy. First things first, I'm going to sketch out a rectangular plane. The general bones of the sketch roughed out here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to roughly construct up a few of the planes, just like Reese did in the demo this week. This is probably going to be a very similar shape to the one that you had sketched originally. Now I'm going to add some contours to those surfaces. It's like sketching a soft box. It can be a little weird. I'm going to project some detail for a side pocket here. Just again following perspective and following some of the contours of my actual product. And up here, meeting up with this angled plane, kind of just off the bat right here, we've got a pretty general sketch of a backpack. It does still look a little stiff and rigid, so this is where adding line weight and adding soft contouring to it and the way that you treat your lines is really important, because that is going to determine how the sketch feels at the end of the day. And it'll really break up the difference between it being a hard looking product and a soft looking product like a backpack. So I'm going to very loosely project on this back surface here. Want to include a zipper feature here. Mark out a place for a little logo. And let's first add a little buckle feature here. I'm going to take a bunch of line weight to this, and I want you to pay attention to how I'm treating the line weight around. I haven't put any hard edges indicating that this is the front of the backpack, these are the sides. I'm leaving it relatively open and using different line weight to indicate changing in surfaces, changing in physical contours. Maybe there's folds in the fabric of this thing. So let's do some line weight. Notice around here, the way that I've been treating these contours, soft and flowing, not straight, hard, and rigid. That adds to the idea that it's this soft fabric that is malleable. Another thing that can help is using soft looking contour lines just to indicate that, yeah, there's a bit of softness going on. And that is roughly how I would treat contouring a backpack in some way that's just a bit more organic looking, as opposed to just sticking strictly to a box. Richard, thank you very much for your sketch. I think it looks really good. Keep it up. Do more backpacks, they're pretty fun. Check out like North Face or Arc'teryx and see, like maybe try sketching some of those, because those backpacks themselves have a lot of surface detailing on them in the way that they're designed, but the overall way that they're constructed is also an interesting thing. So thank you so much, and on to the next one. All right, next up we've got Michael. Michael, done someone flipping a Zippo lighter. Pretty cool. It's going to come back to haunt you in second year, believe me. You guys are going to have a Zippo lighter project. And starting off with your sketch here. Honestly, my favorite part of it is probably the hand that you've done. The way that you've done it, you've been able to capture the actual physical flicking of a Zippo lighter, the sound, the motion. I think it looks really good. I do like the Zippo sketch that you did. However, I think that there's ways that we can improve it significantly. Improving it by projecting as much detail as possible within a sketch, because while a Zippo looks very simple from the outside when it's closed, once you open it up, there's the detail of the little holes that go around the top part of the flint there. There's also detailing in the little wheel that you have. Looking at your sketch, it's kind of just been roughed in and freehanded, while those are actually details we can construct and project to include in the final product. So let's do that. It's projecting the detailing that I want to focus on with you. Zippo lighter. Let's break this down. Let's make sure all proportions are correct. Now we can start projecting the detailing of the middle piece where we actually have the flint and the lighter. I'm going to basically spend a lot of time projecting and constructing the initial detail features. Now that a bulk of the detail features that we have and that we need for this sketch are constructed, we can go in and start fleshing out the line weight. Now on the top here, it's a piece of chrome and there's holes in it to help bring oxygen in so that fire works. And those are all circles. So what we're going to do is we're going to very loosely rough out a bunch of square planes and project small squares inside of each of those. We're going to project a bunch of square planes inside of which we can sketch our ellipses. The benefit to this, as opposed to freehanding it, is that we know that now all these squares are accurate and proportional, and they follow the rules of perspective. So now we can go in, start adding some line weight, adding product thickness, and adding details. And the reason that this sketch will be successful is because we've spent the 5, 10, 15 minutes before this to set up everything and construct it properly, using the rules of perspective, ensuring that the final product looks good, looks accurate, and ultimately conveys the proper information. Adding a bit of product thickness to these ellipses, because obviously they're being punched out of a sheet of metal. So naturally, you will see some kind of an inner lip on the inside of that. And don't forget, the contours of the Zippo are all rounded off. Fits very nicely, very softly in the hand. So we're going to indicate that by using some nice, soft contour lines all the way around. That right there, that should be what you can focus on. Projecting as much detailing as possible, projecting all these little tiny features, and starting very light right off the bat, that's going to lead you to success. So, Michael, thanks a whole bunch for your sketch. Really appreciate it. Turned out really well, all things considered. But what I want you to focus on now and going forward is projecting as much detail as possible all the time, whatever it is. Project, project, project. Thank you so much, and on to the next one. Okay, the next one, we've got 3 people doing bike helmets. And first off, we're going to talk to Ajanthan, AJ. Good sketch. I like your line weight. You've actually got a really good sense of dark line weight on the bottom and lighter line weight on the top, and using the two to distinguish, especially around detail features. Really good job on that. It's really good to see. And I like the attempt at contouring that you've done as well. Good on you. Let's work on accurately projecting and constructing the detail features of the bike helmet. Bike helmets are a bit of a weird shape, but we're going to break it down and do it in a simple way, in a way that's easy to follow and understand. Next person that did a bike helmet is Justin. Good job doing 2 views as well. I like your sketch. I like the fact that you've done one from the front left and one from the front right. I think something that could be interesting and challenging for you is to do a front 3/4 view, but also a rear 3/4 view, because then it really mixes up the subject matter that you're sketching. And don't be afraid to loosen up your lines, okay? They're clean, but they're almost too clean. There's nothing wrong with having a little bit of mess to the sketch lines. It also just adds a greater sense of energy overall to the piece. It looks less like a coloring book outline and more dynamic and more interesting. So let's loosen up just a bit. And then Reneem. I really like your sketch Reneem. However, I want you to continue constructing and projecting your detail features, okay? Just like Michael, project as much as you possibly can. The bones of the sketch that you have are very good. What we need to focus on now is projecting those details accurately and following the other rules of perspective, and that will ultimately be able to take your sketch from here, where it's at, off the screen to the next level. So let's do a bike helmet. Okay, to start off, I'm going to project a rectangular plane on the bottom. Project that up, pretty loose, pretty rough. Now I'm gonna find the center, connect the points, okay? We got a box and we got a whole bunch of lines. We're gonna sketch a side profile first. It's gonna give us some touch points along here that we are then able to project sideways. And this is where planning your sketch becomes very, very important. And that there will give us a reference point that we can then project the bottom of the helmet out a bit. It's got to wrap around the whole head. Now let's go up and over, connecting with this point on the top. Okay, so you can see very loosely we have the rough form of our helmet. And if we're going to do, say, a typical normal cycling helmet that has a couple of air vents going back, maybe 2 or 3, we're going to want to project a center line for those features to make sure that it follows consistently. And thanks to these different lines that we've done, we can make sure that they're projected accurately across on the other side. So bring it back, we'll take this one, we'll bring it back, and for the sake of it, we'll do small little bit of detailing on the side there. Maybe this one starts here, but since it kind of cuts in a bit too close, we're going to do 3 and then 2. Okay. And now we can pick points along these lines and bring them back following this initial arc that we made. Working off the center point is a very useful trick, and simply detail features as such. This is also no helmet in particular. I'm just loosely roughing these in, for example. We're also going to see part of that detail feature here. Okay, let's make sure we get that accurately portrayed. Same thing with these. Maybe these are going to be slightly different in shape, maybe more triangular. Now, we've got the features, we need to add depth to them because they're obviously being recessed in as there's a cutout. So, right, so if I were to draw a contour line, it would go follow the arc and then it would cut in, and then there would be the middle part, and if it were to keep going, it would connect like that. So using my center line as a bit of a reference point, so that way all these features line up properly. Maybe there's a bit of a bottom lip to this. Maybe it kind of goes, if you were to look at it from the side, it would have the curve, then it would cut in. So there's that lower shelf to it, which we would see a little bit of. So now we may be able to add, following these lines, smaller contour cutouts. Now it's very loose, it's still a little messy, but we're going to be able to take and use line weight to break up different surfaces and showcase product thickness. Okay, so let's jump into that and start adding dark line weight on the darkest parts, the parts that are inside the helmet itself. Now we're going to add a bit more line weight. And you'll notice that all the detail features that are in the sketch follow proper perspective. And that's because we spent about 10 to 15 minutes before putting in line weight just constructing the details, okay? This is a very simplified bike helmet, but it's simplified to show you the practice and the basis of understanding of projecting and constructing as much detail as possible. And hopefully you take something away from it. And obviously you can add straps for the bike helmet itself. You know, don't be afraid to give those a little bit of thickness too. And then just for the sake of flair, I hope that kind of makes sense in terms of how to break up a very complex surface such as this. And obviously you can take this now and start adding a lot more line weight or even a lot more detail to it. You know, we can really go in and using all these reference lines are now following perspective. So it's very easy to go in and start adding a whole bunch of just different types of detail features to this, okay? That's the beauty of spending time to construct something, is that if you spend enough time at it, 15-20 minutes typically, it's going to give you the bones to work with to construct a sketch where everything follows suit. Ajithan, Justin, and Raneem, thank you for doing the sketches that you did. They're all very different. You guys have different strengths, different weaknesses. Naturally, that is the way of being a student, but I want you to at least try and practice this kind of a method. Start off, construct everything, break up your forms, use that center plane, especially useful when constructing curved surfaces. And ultimately, you guys are going to have a cool sketch, so thank you very much. And that just about wraps us up. I'd like to say a final thank you to everybody for spending the time to do the sketches that you've done, putting in the time, putting in the effort. Really good to see, and I like being able to go over each one of your pieces and just see how everybody is progressing throughout the semester. It's absolutely fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Creativity from the side is the Process Podcast. Gives me the fizz. That's rad.